We want to honor God because He sees everything.
You were born with a plan and a purpose. He's the God of all things possible. He's the God of all miracles.
Welcome to Grace with Nina Michelle. I'm Michelle Humphreys.
And I am Nina Keegan. Welcome to our broadcast today. Today we are so excited to have this very special guest on. You will all know him. You will all know he is a household name, household commercial. You cannot not know him, Michelle.
Exactly. If you have a TV, you know the MyPillow guy. But before he was the MyPillow guy, he had quite a life. And we're going to talk about that today and what all he is doing. Will you please welcome to our program, Mike Lindell. We're so happy you're here.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Well, we are grateful. Thank you so much. We both have your book here. Fascinating. And it just an unbelievable story of God's redemption and how God found you and all that you're doing for the kingdom. Do you want to touch a little bit about that, about in the Lindell Recovery Network? Your book is called What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO, Mike Lindell. And so just how did that all happen?
Start from the beginning. Just tell us a little bit about your life story.
Yeah, I'll go back to when I was 7 years old. My parents divorced, and I was put into a school. I didn't know anybody, but I was the only kid from a divorced family, and I felt really like an outcast almost. It was like I can just remember how I felt back then. It was I would either show off or be very quiet, and when I got I remember getting as I was writing this book. I finally realized, back then, how much it did affect me. I'm not blaming everything in my life on it, but I'll tell you, it really affected me a lot more than I thought. I always thought I was just, somewhat shy or didn't want to talk to people I didn't know or whatever, and certainly did not want to talk in public or in front of anyone. I was basically, you heard about being camera shy or being pure public speaking. I was that on steroids. So it was like, nobody can believe that, but yet I would show up. It's in the book where I would show up in school it was like these extremes. And I just remember, at my I had two jobs back then, probably the last two jobs I ever had, because I was always an entrepreneur. And but the two jobs I had, I was worked in a drive-in movie theater and a grocery store. And I ended up getting fired at the grocery store. I had all my ideas of what a company should be, and so we would argue over that. And he goes, Mike, if you think you can run your own company, why don't you get your own company and do what you want to do sometimes? And we do that. We put out things I didn't like back then. But when I got fired on, I actually had a person that I hadn't seen in a long time had passed away, and they were very close to me. And I just went, I told I couldn't take off to go to the funeral, but I just did it anyway. And I got fired for it and things like that. Well, like at MyPillow now, if you have a death that's somebody close to you, we don't care who it is, a neighbor, I don't care who it is, you take off and we pay you while you're out as much time as you want to grieve. Or if you're hurt and it's life-threatening, we pay you while you're out, or if it's, if a loved one's in the hospital. So we have all these things from back then that I didn't like. But anyway, we got to my 5-year class reunion, and I remember everyone had finished college, or they were starting families, or they had got furthered their whatever they were doing with their job. Well, I wasn't doing anything then. I hadn't done anything by then. I wasn't even working at the drive-in theater. I was basically spending my time in the bars, and but I kind of took over that reunion, and I was telling them about how I owed the mafia money, and they'd come to my doors and threaten me, and I owed tens of thousands of dollars as a 20-some-year-old kid, and or how I had fell asleep on a motorcycle. I had gotten 17 traffic tickets on a motorcycle. This is in the book. And there was a warrant out I would have went to jail if I got caught driving this bike, but I wanted to go on my 9th jump skydiving. And I remember driving it, fell asleep, crashed the motorcycle, got back up, went down skydiving, and my parachute had a malfunction. And this was all on the same day. So everyone at the reunion is going, wow, wow. They're going, wow. But I got home that night, and there was a deep sadness that came over me. It was like I wanted what they had, not what I was bragging about, because that's all I had, and it was a self-worth thing. And but then I got into cocaine. Once I got into cocaine, then I could really talk. I could talk and be functioning addict. I think people talk about addiction, and they say, they imagine addicts in the street. I've been there before, but they imagine being in the street with homeless or whatever. And I'm here. In the book, I say addiction affects everyone, no matter how many forks you eat with. And it's very functioning addiction. I became a functioning addict. I was blessed with a family and 20-year marriage. And I was, like I say, I had a parallel track of not just with addiction, but also with entrepreneurship. My sister flooded a 3rd-story building with an apartment complex with a water bed. So I became a carpet cleaner. Another thing that manifested out of going to a treatment center, I became started a lunch wagon business. And then the business I got into as I was bartending, I guess, and I ended up buying the restaurant bar from the guy on a contract for deed. So that was the start of buying that. And I didn't have any money. Nobody handed me any money. So I had a good work ethic too. But I had one bar for 13 years. It's in the book, and not a good place for an addict. And that had turned into crack cocaine around the year 2000 from cocaine and other addictions. And then I was also a professional card counter, but then it was me in the casinos where I was addicted to gambling. There's just so many crossovers there, and it's quite, like you say, it's pretty amazing. But God, throughout all of it, God was always chasing me, and I would pray. I call them reactionary prayers. I would pray, "Go get me out of this, and I'll never do this." And again, but those, obviously, a lot of those weren't God's will, so things that were so devastating at the time, I can look back now and say, wow, that was meant to be. And all these things that happened probably gave me the strength where I'm at now, where I've seen things be so decimated back then. And I was able to get through them by the grace of God. I invented the pillow in 2004 after I had to sell the bars, and it wasn't something I did. It was basically forced out, and I was just, like I say, devastated at the time. I look back now, if that wouldn't have happened, I might not be here.
We wouldn't have My Pillows. We're going to take a break really quickly, and when we come back, we'll talk more about how My Pillow got started. So stay tuned.
When I started My Pillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use My Pillows, $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back to Grace Grace with Nina and Michelle. We are here with the fabulous Mike Lindell. What an amazing story. And you were just talking about, how God works in mysterious ways. And so again, you were devastated over losing this bar, but that caused you to launch My Pillow. So, and like you said, you might not still be here if you were still at a bar because of the issues that you had at the time. So tell us about My Pillow and why a pillow? There's got to be a reason for that.
Right. Well, the pillow, it was always a problem solution. Like I said, I was always an entrepreneur. I would come up with different ideas of different things, but the pillow was extremely frustrating for me. I know I had back in 1977, with my first paycheck at that grocery store, it was like $70-some, and I went out and bought the most expensive pillow you could find, which at that time was a down pillow. It was about $70, and it was horrible. It went down, and I'm using my arm, folding my pillow, and I couldn't return it. But all my life, I just knew that there was something different. I go, I just stacked pillows, just all these different things, and nothing really worked. And I had an idea, I believe that this was basically a God idea, dreams that I'd had, and I actually dreamt the name up, My Pillow. First, I'm going, that sounds like it was a weird name. It was like one of the first My's, like, where's my pillow? And she used and combined it into one word. And, but I came up with actually the name before even the pillow. It took about 9 or 10 months in 2003 or 2004 going every day, tearing different foams. I wanted something you could adjust and it would hold there. And it was very frustrating, but every day going through this, and then I would have this, but I reverse engineered. I wanted to have everything that anyone would ask for. But the biggest thing was quality sleep and that adjustability that wouldn't go flat. I remember finally we had it, one of my sons, he would help me each day and tearing the foam and stuff, he'd flying around the neighborhood. But we finally came up with it, but then you couldn't get it apart. And then we solved that problem. And then we didn't have a machine that could make that. And we solved that. And then I wanted it to be able to wash and dry it. That hadn't been done before in pillows. And so we got the patented foam and we ended up getting a patent on, but but I wanted to make it wash and dry. I wanted to give it value and a 10-year warranty and all these things. And when I finally had it, I remember going into a box store. Actually, it was a Bed Bath & Beyond. Said, "How many do you want? I have the best pillow ever made." Blah blah blah. And I think they thought I was nuts. He says, "You need to leave now." It was like kind of like where we're at now with no box stores. But anyway, someone said, "Well, Mike, why don't you do a kiosk?" Remember, and I was completely penniless then. I remember I said, "What's a kiosk? How do you spell that?" And we went to do that, and we borrowed money to do the kiosk. And remember, I couldn't talk to people, so I didn't want to be there with the public walking up where a kiosk was and asking me questions. I was very uncomfortable because I would be straight. And remember, I had 2 tracks going on, crack cocaine addict and alcoholic, but yet over here I would separate that. It would be out of my skin. I just didn't like it. But I was only there maybe 2 of the days. We hardly sold anything over the 2 months or month and a half. And but the day I was there, that this guy came up and said, "Hey, do you have a business card?" I said, "I don't have a business card." And he said, "I wrote my name and number on a piece of paper." Well, that guy, by divine appointment, he called. Now, the kiosk was a complete failure, but he called in January of that year. I had 4 little kids and wondering what I'm going to do, but I wasn't giving up. And he called up. He says, "Hey, you gave me your number. This pillow changed my life." And he goes, "I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in there?" And I said, "Sure." And I remember giving him a check because I didn't have any money that he would say cash after the show. But I probably sold very few pillows in the 2 months at the kiosk. This time I put a table in front of me so people couldn't invade my space, and I'd had kind of like a shield in my chinas, right?
Pillow shield.
A pillow shield. Well, here 18 people bought pillows that day, and they came back the next day and paid to get back in the show. All of them did, to come up and tell me how that pillow had helped them. And I was so excited. I was just hooked on that, on helping people. It wasn't about the money. It was about that feeling I got there. So I did home shows and fairs for years with a parallel track of addiction. And I lost everything in 2007. We were making them in our living room, or packaging them in our living room, and lost a marriage of 20 years. And they turned out our power, our lights, and it was basically lights out. And then the crack addiction took over in 2008 and 9. The drug dealers actually did an intervention on me. That's the cover of the book, where there were 3 drug dealers downtown Minneapolis. I came out of the bedroom and they're all going, and I said, you guys know each other? And they knew of each other, but they had never met. And the one guy says, you've been up for 14 days, we're cutting you off. And one guy left and the other one went down and got the word out in the streets. And he said, how much crack you have left? And they showed him, and he sat in the chair. And by 2:30 in the morning, I was already carpet farming. If you don't do crack, if you do crack, you'll know what that means. I was carpet farming, scraping the pipe, and I looked over and he was asleep. I went down to the streets of Minneapolis, couldn't buy crack anywhere. They would not, I go, hey, I got $100. It didn't matter. They had gotten the word out to not sell me any. I came back upstairs, and he said, how'd that work out for you? And I said, and I'm all upset. And he said, man, you've been telling us for years that you're going to quit your addictions, and you're going to come back and help us out of this addiction world we're in. And I was basically their hope. And he said, we're not going to let you die on us. And he grabbed my phone. He says, here, I'm going to take a picture for that book you say you're going to write someday. So he took that picture. That is on the book. Now, It was a year later, on January 16, 2009. That's the day I quit all the addictions. I quit everything overnight. I had one prayer to God. I said, God, I want to wake up in the morning and never have the desire again. And I knew I had this big calling. We all have callings, but I knew I had a calling. But I also knew if I waited one more day, that that option was going to be gone forever. And I described that in the book. But I woke up in the morning and the desires were gone. Now, that was the day I thought I got saved, because it was such a difference of night and day. And but I didn't actually give a full surrender to Jesus Christ till February 18th, 2017, everybody. But I did quit that day. And then it was like 4 years or a couple of years later. Now, My Pillow was just a little dot. All the shows had been taken. There was so much betrayal in my life. And so I told my friends and family, I said, let's pool our money. We're going to make the biggest infomercial in history, and it's going to be so successful. Well, I didn't know that the infomercials are just to go into the box stores that wouldn't take us, that they don't make money on the front end. Nobody told me it couldn't be done. So I just decided we would do it. And
well, obviously, you don't take no for an answer. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how we came to the My Pillow commercials.
And we want to know, we know you're so involved in, helping to save America, and we're going to hear all about that too. We want to know that story when we come right back. Stay tuned. You're watching Grace with Nina and Michelle.
When I started My Pillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use My Pillows, $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back to Grace with Nina and Michelle. You are watching our show today with our special guest, Mike Lindell. This is part 1 of part 2. We are just getting to his whole story, and so you're going to want to stick around and hear this. And so, Mike, you were just talking about My Pillow and how you were getting started to maybe get into big box stores. So take it from there. What happened?
Right. Well, this was actually the first infomercial we did, where we couldn't, no box stores would take us, and we were denied everywhere. And I had quit all my addictions the year before, in January 16, 2009. I spent the next year or so getting my shows back, and like I say, so much betrayal from people I had broke bread with, and were trying to steal the company, what it was, and I'd already done print ads and a little bit of radio, but I had this dream of this infomercial. So we pooled our money, and the infomercial, just so people know, is a half-hour infomercial, and they only work in Japan, by the way, on the front end, which means that to make enough money on a front end of an infomercials are just to advertise. So you go into box stores, and the box stores were not having us. So, but like I say, and everyone said, this will never make it. This will never make it. Now we went to film this. And remember, I was afraid of being in front of crowds or talking in front of people unless I had this table in front of me at home cooked and fair. So this was new to me, being in a sober life. And so we went to do our reads the night before. It was just a friend of mine that had done shows with, and this guy from Hollywood or whatever, this producer, he texts the other guys who were doing our reads. He said, "This is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV."
Oh, no.
And but I didn't know that. So then the next day, though, I come out and my eyes bogged out of my head, and here's all the live audience, and I'm scared to death. And it took like an hour to do one line, and it was so stiff. And then the pillow goes like this, So I finally said, "Hey, can we get rid of the teleprompter and bring a table in, just like I did it at the home shows all those years where I was comfortable?" So we put the table, and I just did it kind of live, and I didn't even realize the audience was there because I'm so passionate about the product, and it just came out of me, the things I would say too would be it was almost film live, you flip flop all night like a guppy. I know people would say, I would say these things and they just kept it in this commercial. Well, anyway, it launched October 7th of 2011. I was living in one of my sister's basement with, I had about 5, maybe 10 employees, mostly my kids and some neighbor kids. And that launched, and 25 days later, we had 500 employees. I remember firing the call center I had trained in one day because I called them up. I said, "Yeah, what's in that pillow?" And they said, "I don't know. Google it." I said, "Google it." So because I always treat every customer like it's my only customer, and I would just what happened then, we grew so fast. We took in over $100 million. We were the number one infomercial in the world.
Oh my goodness!
2 months. They said, "Mike, you need to be CEO." I go, "Why do I need to be CEO? I just want to make." I didn't even know what CEOs were. I said, "Let's just make pillows, and we need a HR department." I said, "That sounds horrible. Well, we need a company lawyer." And I go, "That sounds even worse." But we took in $100 million in the next 6 months, and but the end of the 6 months, one day in May of 2012, I opened it up and looked at it and go, "Oh, what?" I was $6 million in debt, and I was just devastated going, and there had been so much betrayal, so much where I took me a handshake deal, or even if I signed a contract, they both would, everybody had taken advantage. There was stuff that wasn't in-house, and nothing was tracked right. But I learned from all that. And by over the next 2 years, it was a grace of God, though, that we were protected in that time, because then the box stores, because of all that advertising, they did come calling, and the shopping channels. So we were able to get into them, but still you were living on the edge for about 2 years. And then I met what was my wife to be, named Kendra, and we just got married last year, as a matter of fact. But when I met her, she did a couple of things. She's saying, I wanted something she had. I'm going, "Wow, I thought that I was already saved." And she goes, "Well," and she had something I didn't have, and that was a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But she would always have me praying for the company. "We need to pray. We need to pray. We need to pray." And this was the summer of 2014. We were within a couple of days of going under. And once again, God lifted my pillow and myself out of that ruins. And if you read the book, it just exploded in November of 2014. Someone said, "Well, Mike, what I basically did during that time was pull everything in-house and learn what went wrong in 2012. And I say that right now when we talk about our elections and stuff, which we'll get into that in the next part two of this thing. But I always compare that in my speeches with the elections. I say, if 2012 had not happened, My Pillow would not be here. Thousands of employees later and 84 million My Pillows later.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Because if I didn't, I look back now, which was so devastating at the time, I just learned from it and pulled everything in house and said, how can I make this the best it can be? How can I make this the best it can be? Each segment of no matter what it is with the marketing. So our marketing, you see now, is second to none. We track everything with promo codes and 1-800 numbers. We want to know, what if you had to live on just that one thing, just that show, or just that one commercial, or just that one newspaper article, whatever it is, you want to make it the best you can be. But we learned all that from the stuff that happened in 2012. And I say, that's why I call the 2020 election the most important election in history, is because of everything we've learned over the last 3.5 years.
It has definitely been a teaching experience. And when we are going to do a part 2 of Grace with Mike Lindell. And thank you so much for joining us today. Please join us for part 2 of this amazing story. We cannot wait to get into this next phase and all that you've learned. So thank you for joining us today, Mike. We appreciate you so much, and we're so proud of you.
We'll see you on part 2.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Does science disprove God?
Is there a war between science and faith?
We don't need God to create a universe. There's no evidence for God, and it's irrational.
Is there no evidence for God?
Am I delusional for my beliefs?
It is delusional and stupid.
Am I brainwashed?
Do I ignore reason?
Logic.
Critical thinking.
Science.
RDOF uses logic and reasoning.
RDOF has empowered my sons to defend their faith with facts.
If you want to be equipped to defend against the biggest objections to the existence of God, RDOF is the place for you.
Has science really ruled out God? Is faith at war with science? If you want to be equipped to respond to these claims and more, check out RDOF.org.
The evidence he presents is so powerful and overwhelming.
Incredibly compelling, yet easily understandable.
We believe in rationality, we believe in reason, we believe in science, and we believe in the existence of God.
I would leave every event with a mind-boggling awe and assurance.
I never believed in God. I just think it was craziness. RDOF confirmed my faith. RDOF confirmed my full belief, full faith in the Lord, man.
The appearance of design in the universe is undeniable.
The lights, the crowd, the videos.
To book a presentation or watch our free videos, go to RDOF.org or find us on Facebook at RDOF Events.